Shalom, family, and welcome back to another Faithful Friday Sabbath Class. And now we begin a new segment. We begin the Book of Proverbs, okay? So we're going to open up to the Book of Proverbs, and we're going to begin at Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 1. So the Book of Proverbs, chapter 1 and verse 1. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. So the main author of the book of Proverbs, the main one who was writing it, is what we read was Solomon. Okay, Solomon was the king over all Israel. At the time, um, the arguably the wisest Israelite that ever lived. Um, he was known for his wisdom and you know um, known for doing many things in a good way, but also a couple things in a very bad way, and it becoming that much more uh, exacerbated or um, unbecoming because of all the wisdom that he had, and also him being that much older, in terms of his mistakes and falling away. But it's also through those mistakes that we have the book of Proverbs, because it was part of King Solomon's repentance, that all the things I've learned and gathered over my lifetime, that I want to make sure I put these things down in words so that others may be able to learn, grow, and be better and do better, and hopefully not make the same mistakes that I made in my walk. So, it's always the pro and the con with, yeah, we hate the mistakes that we may have had to have made to ultimately get where we are. But at the same time, it's through those mistakes we learn, and we become all the more humble, and we, you know, fight to be better and do better in ways that had we not made those mistakes, we could take for granted or just never would have ultimately have been able to rise and be that much better of ourselves. So it's thanks to some mistakes that we have the book of Proverbs, okay? So let's go ahead and get into it. So the book of Proverbs and chapter 1 and verse 2. It says, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. Now, why does it say to know wisdom and instruction? Because you can hear something wise, but it doesn't necessarily mean you know it, okay? Which is a certain level of familiarity, um, but also just really an awareness that, okay, I get it. I get what this is saying. It's registering. I'm locking in. So to know wisdom and instruction. Why would it say to know wisdom and instruction? Because a lot of times when you're dealing with wisdom, you know, it's there's a level of instruction that you have to receive in order to move accordingly. So usually there's some information I have to get and be able to understand that and how it's conveyed to then be able to apply it. So I have to be able to have instructions on, okay, how to move, how to operate, so then that way I'm successful in whatever that endeavor or particular thing is. And it says to perceive the words of understanding. Why is that? Because you can hear number of things, number of words, but yet and still it doesn't mean you're listening with the intent to understand, or that you're picking up on everything in the way that you should be picking up on. And that happens all the time in various circles. Need to be from a parent to a child, or even just someone else, even teacher to a student. Need that be a child or even an adult, even especially with us, the children of Israel deal with the Most High as our parent. A lot of things we're not always able to perceive. We're not always able to see through to the other side and like, okay, I get it. I'm able to really comprehend the situation and how I need to move or operate. Verse 3, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity. So these are the instructions that we should be trying to receive. And it's great because they all correlate. To receive the instruction of wisdom, which is really that application of the scriptures, and that justice, that the root of justice is being just. So I'm trying to move justly. So, and through wisdom. And then with that follows what? Judgment. Because judgment is now the decision that has to be made with me knowing these things, but then me also trying to move uprightly by these things in these situations to try to have a better outcome. So, and then with that, and then you have, like it says, and then you have equity, okay? Um, and by equity, like it has being in agreement, being all right, being, equal, evenness, straightness, uprightness. So now that's how you have things. Things are now moving an upright way. They're now straight. It's no longer crooked all over the place, but that's a process, okay? So that wisdom, justice, judgment, equity. Like it says, verse 4, to give subtlety to the simple. Now, why would it say subtlety to the simple? Part of it's tied to the latter end, to the young man knowledge and discretion. So subtlety to the simple. And when we're dealing with subtlety, what are we dealing with? So now, for the Strongs, H6195 is dealing with trickery, or in a good sense, discretion. God, prudence, subtlety, willy wisdom. Now, of course, subtlety, because subtlety has more than one definition. Like we dealt with in the book of Genesis, dealing with, hey, the serpent was subtle. But in that sense, trickery or having guile. But in this sense, we're not dealing in that aspect of, we're dealing with, in a good sense, discretion. Okay, prudence, wisdom. Okay, with how you're dealing with someone who's simple-minded, a simple-minded individual. Like that's one of the insults. You don't want to be called simple. She's simple. He's simple. You simpleton, because it's you understand or you learn that's you can say a euphemism for calling someone dumb or stupid or slow. So they're simple. They're simple-minded, or just someone who they don't necessarily excel in knowledge or wisdom, understanding, and because of that, they can say things or move in a way that just isn't the wisest, and not only isn't the wisest, but can be very offensive, cause people to have some apprehension. And like it says, study similar to the young man, knowledge and discretion. So I would say to the young man, knowledge and discretion, because oftentimes in your youth, those are things that you lack. You lack knowledge, you lack information on things in terms of how to go about things and situations. And a lot of times you're not in a place where you know how to be discreet or operate in terms of discretion, being discreet. And that discretion is really in terms of having knowledge on various ways I can go about doing something and choosing, the best response given the situation. Like, hey, you know what? I want to talk to that person about an offense, but now is not a good time. I see that a lot of people around, I want to put them on blast, so let me just hold it in right now, and then hopefully I can pull them to the side in like 30 minutes or an hour, and better deal with the situation then, because I don't want to make a scene. That's operating discretion, whereas they're more so gonna move in a space where, well, you offended me. I'm nah. You got to hear it. I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna let you know right now. You know, without necessarily weighing these other factors into place, and that's the biggest thing. Uh, the scriptures will teach you to be able to do that. You know, if you read it with the intent to understand, and you apply it. That okay. I know I have to deal with this a little different. And those are things usually as you get older and older, you begin to learn and slowly change and conform to, usually. But in this day and age, especially, especially, you can still, you know, be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and still not have these things together and still be just as you are young and dumb, old and stubborn. It just the same way. Just time passed, and now you stuck in your ways. So, and now you just move in a way that you cause more problems and more offenses. So we don't want that. So now, verse 5, it says, "A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels." Why does it say that? Because everyone's not going to hear and everyone's not going to get it. It's it goes back to not casting your pearl before swine. Everyone you can't, even though you would like to, everyone you can't give the best fruits to because they're not going to do right by it. They're not going to be able to eat it, digest it, and utilize it properly for energy. It's more so like, what am I supposed to do with this? What is this? I don't want that. It's distasteful. So I'm gonna go over here with this. It's like literally having a buffet or a cookout and you showing up with fruit platters. People like, man, fruit platter. This man is good. Give me the barbecue ribs and the hot dogs. Give me that stuff. I don't want fruit. When it's really the fruit is gonna be what's most conducive for your health, but it's not the most, when compared to other options, the most satisfying thing to eat. So therefore, it's frowned upon, in certain settings. So you kind of have that. It's the same way with, again, with wisdom and with being able to talk to certain people and have certain conversations. These are the things that really begin to separate even your friends who you may choose to have a close friendship with or association, and then just versus you being in a space where you're taking on a partner, or spouse, things that nature, and just who you may choose to have as your spouse or partner. And you may be in a space where you can choose someone that embodies a lot of wisdom. You can choose someone that's more simple, but a lot of your problems are also going to stem from that as well, and just how they may process things and whether or not they're able to put things together, or man, they just don't get it. Their reasoning or their ability to reason or logic may not be there to be able to propel your relationship or your household as far as what it is that it potentially could be if they had better reasoning or logic or understanding. So keeping those things in mind. So that's why I said a wise man will hear. A wise person is going to truly listen or try to listen. And with that, because they're really trying to listen, they're going to increase in learning. Maybe not as fast as what you may like or even what they may like, but they're going to eventually get it. They're going to keep spinning those wheels and keep climbing. So their chart is gonna, you draw different charts, and some may be ooh 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 ooh, and they get there. Others might be ooh whoa whoa loop de loops, zigzags, whatever type way. But they're still slowly but surely gonna make those changes, even if they have a couple of shortcomings along the way. So the wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. Why? Because now notice, someone of understanding, that kind of comes to where they may not necessarily, you don't have to be the sharpest tool in the box, but it's like, okay, I reason with things, I process things, and it's like, okay, this 1 plus 1 is really 2, you know. And just to water it down in simplistic ways, whereas other people is, nah, you put 1 next to 1, that's 11. Nah, it ain't. You really gotta just add it, and then it look like this. Like someone with understanding, they're gonna be in places of conversation to discuss various things, having discourse, really being available to really learn, because there's a mindset of where it would behoove me to grow in these areas. It would behoove me to study these things, because ultimately with this information I'll be able to have better success over here in this. So I want to make sure I'm learning those things, growing in those areas to be better and do better. So verse 6, to understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. So this is really what we're dealing with. That's part of the understanding. Really take time, like I said, a wise man, he's gonna listen, sit down, really try to be quiet and focus, and like, okay, I gotta put this together. I gotta figure this out. Okay, because I really have to understand, what it is that's being said, or these words of wisdom. That's what generally a proverb is. A proverb is some type of saying or statement or statements that generally has some type of lesson or teaching behind it, but can also be a saying, even a derogatory, saying. But usually it's a type of saying. When it starts getting more of the derogatory one, that's really it switches from, like a proverb to more of a byword. That's more so the negative aspect of it. But you have situations where, okay, like if I'm looking at a proverb, that you could look at simple ones. Treat others the way you want to be treated. That's a proverb. Some words of wisdom that you can meditate on and say, like, dang, why is that? Why should I do that? Why is that a good thing? Or is it a bad thing? But why? Okay. Because usually if I don't like something, someone else, they don't like something. And if I treat them, if I choose to, you know, treat them bad when I don't like that, then I look like a hypocrite. Then people can distance themselves from me, talk about me behind my back, and I want to be my friend. So I don't want to look like that. Nah, I gotta make sure I treat others the way I want to be treated. So in that way, they'll see that that's respectable, that's commendable. Then they want to be around me more, talk to me more. Okay, I see that. I'm putting two and two together. There's a process with the reasoning. So I would say, to understand verse 6, to understand a proverb in the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. And in dark, it's not trying to say evil. Oh, they're evil sayings and things of that nature, like dark, just evil or wicked. That's not what it's dealing with. By dark, when think about it, if you cut off the lights, we cut off the lights, it's going to be dark in here. It's going to be significantly dark in here compared to right now, because we have multiple lights on. But we cut off the lights, it's going to be dark. And when it's dark, it obscures your vision. You're not able to see clearly what's in the room, what's going on, so you're more likely or liable to trip and fall, hurt yourself, or someone else. You didn't step on someone else's toe, tripped over their leg, so on and so forth, because you're in a space where, guess what? You can't see. It's limited visibility. So, whereas a wise person, they're gonna make sure that, let's turn on the light on this, as they say, let's shed some light on this situation. Let's reveal some things concerning this situation, so we can make the right decisions or move accordingly. That's what you want. So like it says, verse 7, The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So the fear of the Most High, that's the beginning of knowledge. Why? Because that fear, which is primarily respect for and unto the Most High, but then also some like literal fear or apprehension, like, well, shoot, because that's gonna help keep you in check. But nah, I don't want to do that. Cause I do that, Most High gonna kill me, man. And even on smaller, man, I don't want to do that. Cause I do that, my mom's gonna kill me, my dad's gonna kill me. Yeah, you gotta have that. Is necessary. So, and that starts the beginning of your, you know, knowledge, beginning of your information that you're receiving. That'll be conducive for your growth and development. That's part of the foundation to you have enough fear to realize, like, dang, I really got to change. It's serious. It's not a game. It's serious. I could die, spiritually for all eternity. I don't want that. Therefore, I'm going to put myself in a space and place to be able to learn the things I need to do in order to be saved. That's the thing I have to do. So, verse 8, it says, my son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. So it's letting and hear the instruction of your father. Because oftentimes fathers, they're trying to instruct you. Oftentimes, good fathers, not Joe Schmo or baby daddy is that the third. No, good fathers. Okay, good fathers. There's a difference, not just they daddy, not they father. Good father is going to try to educate and teach his family. That's what he's going to try to do, especially his children, trying to educate and teach them, get them some life skills. So, this is my son, hear the instruction of thy father. Because now you have Solomon writing these things and to try to help, others that, hey, look, listen, listen so you don't make these mistakes. So, my son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. So, to hear the instructions of our Father even goes back to the Most High Heavenly Father hearing His instructions. Same thing, forsake not the law of thy mother. So, our mother is multifaceted. It goes from the earth to Jerusalem, to just wisdom and just putting yourself in a space where, no, I'm trying to learn, these things, because that mother, key thing is that nurturer, and the key thing we should be getting from that nurture, from that mother, is the law. That's what should be, pushing us, propelling us. Like, man, I need to get more into some of this information, some of this history, some of these laws. And if you can be on fire to do that, pumped, motivated, you're going to have a lot of success. So now, verse 9 says, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head. Now, why would it say ornament of grace unto thy head? Because usually, what type of jewelry does one put on their head? Usually, it's a crown, right? A crown that is worth something, has value. But then even more so, going beyond that, crown signifies or denotes what? Rulership, leadership. So you have those things. So it's also, stating those things in there as well. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head. That, man, these laws, if you really have this, if you really have this on your mind constantly, and you're moving in that way, you're going to have a lot of success in whatever it is you do, whatever it is, because you're trying to filter everything through the word, the way it should be. So now, situation where, let's read. Oh, let's read verse 9 again. Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 9. For there should be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. Why would it say chains about thy neck? How? Because we generally like jewelry and things, especially to have chains and things around our neck. It's twofold. On one end, we wear a lot of these chains for what? For a level of aesthetic appeal. You know, ultimately to look good. So when you're moving in wisdom, that's what it's gonna do. It's gonna cause you to begin to look good and to be noticed. People will say, "Dang, what they got over there?" You know, ultimately that's what you want. So that's the way that wisdom works. So as you begin to truly listen with the intent to understand and apply, that's the key thing. So, like I said, for they should be an ornament of grace unto thy head and chains about thy neck. And the other thing is with those chains, it's also a situation where it keeps you locked in, keeps you focused. That's the other side of those chains. You want to stay locked in. You want to stay focused. You don't want to be drifting off in different places. So, especially not spiritually. Verse 10, my son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. So, if sinners entice thee, a lot of times you have this different situations where sinners can entice you. One of which may be to steal, whether you're adult or a child. So you can still be enticed to steal. So you can be in a situation where it may not necessarily be a thought of your mind, but you have so-called friends who are trying to say, man, just do it. You ain't gonna take that candy. I ran out the store. You ain't gonna do that. To try to get you and bait you in to do something, or let's say try to, woo you, seduce you, whatever Jedi mind trick to, it ain't gonna be that bad. We just need you to do this. Yeah, probably just slap on the wrist and, you can steal the cannabis. It's all good, man, So just take it. So that's part of enticing, being enticed to do things that the scriptures says one shouldn't do. So that's why I said verse 10, my son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. Don't agree to do what it is they doing or trying to do, because you ain't trying to get caught up. So you are definitely not trying to get caught up. 11, and it reads, if they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood, let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. You don't do it, because now it's murder. That's murder. Trying to ambush somebody, hurt them to the cause, because like they didn't say, it said, let us lie wait for blood. Lie in wait, that means you're trying to ambush somebody. You're trying to catch somebody slipping. That's not the way you're supposed to be. So let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Notice that it said innocent without cause. People are it's like, dang, what I do to you? Why are you coming at me with this? And that's where it comes from. So they're trying to be in a place where they're trying to lay in wait and spring up. So they say, come with us. Let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Many that are doing that, they like preying on the innocent. Those who may not have been doing anything wrong, may not have done anything wrong, but you're trying to get them. Let's see, verse 12. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. Man, that's tough. Tough statement right there. 13. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. So that's what they had. Let's get verse 14. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. So they said, hey, you over there, go ahead and join us. Because if you join us, guess what? And you can't be in a space where you're so adverse because you came with us. You did it too. It's to help clear their name in addition to your name. But reality is, when push comes to shove, I mean, shoot, yeah, I mean, shoot, yeah, whole different thing. Um, verse 12. So it says, "Let us swallow them up, alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down in the pit." Yeah, you don't want that. Like I said, let's swallow them up, alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. That means, yeah, they're lurking. They're trying to take you out, especially if you're perceived to be more righteous than they are. Oh no, they can't have that. They don't mind taking you out, and I don't mean on a date or to dinner. Verse 13. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. So that means this is, we shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our house with spoil. You got a lot of time on your hand, a lot of idleness. You could do anything, you know. Who would know? How are they gonna know? Who's gonna know? It's only you and the Most High and whoever else witnessed. So 14, this is casting thy lot among us, let us all have one purse. 15, my son, walk now thou in the way with them, refrain thy foot from their path. That's what you got to remember. You can't follow everybody. You know, you can't follow every teacher, preacher, apostle, bishop, whatever, you name it. You can't follow everybody. Some people, they're going to destroy or mess things up, for others. So even for themselves, can't follow everyone. Verse 16, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Are you somebody who runs to evil? You don't run away from it, you run to it. But of course, what's evil in the sense or bad for the Most High? Not us, not what we, not the personal. Because boy, if we had to do it, all the personal, yeah, some problems. So, uh, like I said, 16, for their feet run to evil, make haste to shed blood. 17, surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. Why? Because you so caught up trying to catch somebody else, you don't get caught up yourself. And the biggest thing you're going to get caught up in is sin. You know, you're going to be caught up in sin, committing various transgressions. You don't want that. So, I would say, for their feet run to evil, make haste to shed blood. Some people, boy, and some of y'all know, some people, man, I'd shoot them, man, I'll tell you. Some be serious. They really take somebody out, really hurt somebody. So, that's why I said their feet run to evil, make haste to shed blood. So it's already got those who nowadays, instead of trying to help a situation, break some stuff up, we got World Star, or we just trying to go live, record, bystander apathy, but no, how many people are actually trying to help? So you have that as well. So now, and it says verse 19, so are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. You don't want to be greedy of gain. You don't want to be in a space where I always got to have something, always got to come back to me, always got to get a piece of the pie. Certain times, like, nah, you had your pie. Let them get a pie, or you had your slice, or you still got a slice. Let them get a slice. So can't be greedy. Can't be in a mindset where it's about me. I just want to have. We don't want that. So see verse 20. Wisdom crieth without. She uttereth her voice in the streets. Wisdom is always out there and available. That's why it's out on the street. Wisdom is always out there and available. We have to seek wisdom. We have to choose to allow wisdom into our lives. When we do that, we fare the better. When we don't and resist, we fare the worse. So we don't want that. So 21. She cried in the chief place of concourse, and opened the gates. In the city she uttered her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, and ye have, excuse me, how long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. You'd have to be foolish to be someone who hates knowledge, who hates, and this kinds of information, not just information conducive for your growth and learning. How could you hate that? Or at least if it's in you, a certain thing you just hate doing, I'm comfortable, then you have to learn to slowly but surely adapt back into what the Most High says that, hey, you shouldn't feel that way, you should feel this way. So you should want that. Um, verse, yeah, like it says, verse. Okay, I'll highlight 21 again. She cried in the chief places of concourse, and 20 again. It says, Wisdom cried without. She uttereth her voice in the street. So wisdom, you're gonna find wisdom up and about, moving around different places, because the reality is you get wisdom through talking to people. That's a big way. Well, people are always out moving about different things, so you kind of have to go out there or find some type of way to reach people to be able to learn and gain and attain more wisdom. It says, My son, walk now thou in the way with them, refrain thy foot from their path. So it is important to make sure you're not completely following every single thing someone else is doing, especially on your job. So, like it says, um, in verse, yeah, wisdom cry without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. A lot of time, wisdom, you're not gonna find um, wisdom just amongst yourself. You have to be able to talk to the right individuals. Wrong individuals, you're gonna get led down the wrong path. The right individuals, they're gonna set you up for success. You need the right individuals to be able to learn from. 'Cause like I said earlier, you can't learn from everybody. Some people, they're gonna mess you up. They're gonna mess you up, send you down the wrong path. So that's part of why you had the serpent. Listening to the wrong advice that was not wisdom, that was not conducive for your growth, and therefore put you in a position, where ultimately you fail. Ultimately, you can fall. When you don't have that sound, advice or counsel to help guide you in whatever it is that you're doing or trying to do. So, and now we're gonna get verse, and really, I'm actually going to uh, save, these ones right here. So we're gonna actually leave off at 22, and then we're actually gonna pick up next time. So with the Book of Proverbs, chapter 1 and verse 22, and continue reading out the chapter, most high permit, next week. So we'll be able to do that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and end it, right here with Proverbs chapter 1 verse 22, and we'll go ahead and, most high permit, continue to pick those things up next week. So this is just an intro. Get basic understanding with the Book of Proverbs, a little bit of the history, who wrote and everything. But pray you continue to stick and just kind of learn and get a lot of meat off the bone that's found throughout the Book of Proverbs, so that you can, be better and do better. And I always want to seek to give you, my best at all times. With it, I don't want to half step or give you partial. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it there so I can uh, make sure I put best foot forward. Most are willing next week. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and say shalom.